The screams. That's what woke me up. Loud, desperate, as if someone's very soul was being torn out. I opened my eyes and the sight hit me like a punch. Smooth, metallic walls, illuminated by a pulsating blue neon glow. It was their ship. I'd been captured. The air was thick with a sharp metallic scent, mingled with something chemical, almost sweet but nauseating. In the corner of the room, I saw a transparent tube filled with bubbling green liquid. Something organic floated inside, but I couldn't bear to look at it for too long. My hands were bound by living cuffs, molding themselves with every slight movement I made. The floor trembled faintly beneath my feet, as if we were in motion. I heard footsteps approaching. They had that characteristic metallic clank, but there was something else. A vibration in the air, like the room itself acknowledged the arrival of someone significant. The door slid open with a high-pitched hiss, and there he was. A Viltrumite, with his exaggerated muscles, ashen skin, and entirely black eyes. His presence filled the space with suffocating tension. Human, so fragile, so insignificant, he murmured, a smug grin on his face. I didn't respond, but my unwavering glare made it clear what I thought of him. He continued, "Your fate will be the same as the others. Just another resource for the Empire." He pressed a button on the nearby panel, and the cuffs released. My body hit the ground hard, the cold metal floor pressing against my skin. I rose slowly, my muscles still stiff. Before he could say or do anything, I lunged. My fist connected with his face with a force even I hadn't expected. The impact was brutal, echoing through the room, and the Viltrumite staggered back. That's when I realized something had changed in me. The green gas, that damned gas that hit me back in Rio de Janeiro. It hadn't killed me. It gave me something I never imagined, strength. And now I had a plan. Alarms started blaring, filling the space with a piercing, grating sound. The Viltrumite wiped the blue blood trickling from the corner of his mouth and growled something in their language. I didn't wait for him to act. I used his moment of distraction to disarm him, grabbing what looked like a retractable blade of alien technology. It wasn't my weapon of choice, but it would do to start the chaos. "Is this what you call a warrior? Pathetic," I said, spinning the blade in my hands, trying to get used to its weight. I barely had time to react before the Viltrumite charged at me again. He came like a raging bull, but I'd seen this brute force tactic before. I dodged at the last second, feeling the rush of air as he barreled past me. The alien blade in my hand glowed with a greenish hue, as if it were made of pure energy. I didn't hesitate. I drove it straight into his flank. His scream of pain was deafening. He dropped to his knees, but before I could finish him off, the entire floor began to quake. A metallic sound reverberated through the walls, followed by an alien voice echoing through the ship's speakers. It was an alert. "Invasion in Slaughter Sector 7. Rebel unit detected." Damn it, they already knew. Before I could process the situation, 2 doors on the side of the room slid open, revealing 2 more Viltrumites. These ones were armed with weapons resembling rifles, their tips glowing with a bluish light. They fired without hesitation. I rolled to the side, feeling the searing heat of the lasers narrowly miss me. The sound was sharp, like thunder compressed into a single burst. These guys weren't messing around. The blade in my hand seemed to hum, almost as if it were alive. I dashed toward the first soldier, dodging another shot. Before he could reload, I plunged the blade into his chest. The blue glow in his eyes faded, and he collapsed without a sound. The second one didn't have time to react. I grabbed the fallen rifle and fired at him. I didn't know how, but my shot hit its mark. With all 3 enemies down, I sprinted to the control panel on the wall. It looked more like a chaotic array of lights and alien symbols than a logical system, but somehow I knew what to do. The green gas, maybe. It didn't matter. I pressed a large red button that practically screamed for attention. The walls began to slide open slowly, revealing a corridor. The alarms grew louder, and I could hear heavy footsteps closing in. There wasn't much time. I ran down the corridor, passing several rooms that looked like laboratories. In one of them, I stopped cold. Humans. Alive. Trapped in tubes like some grotesque display. Anger boiled in my veins. These bastards were treating us like livestock, literally. I couldn't free them now, not with more soldiers coming after me, but I made myself a promise. I'd be back. This ship, this floating hell, I'd bring it all down, and I'd make sure to burn every inch of it before leaving. I kept running, the sound of approaching footsteps growing louder. Gripping the rifle with both hands, I rounded the corner, ready to face whatever came next. The vibrations beneath my feet grew stronger. I sprinted down the corridor like my life depended on it. And well, it did. Behind me, the heavy steps of the Viltrumites echoed, blending with the blaring alarms. The stolen rifle still had some charge left, but I knew it wouldn't last. I needed a plan. Turning the next corner, I stumbled into a massive room. It was the ship's command center. The sight took my breath away for a moment. Floating consoles, holographic planets spinning in midair, and at the center a glowing sphere pulsing with energy. I knew instantly what it was. The ship's core. If I destroyed it, the entire hellish structure would collapse. I moved toward it cautiously, studying the sphere. It was encased in a translucent barrier that shimmered with blue and purple hues. Before I could figure out how to breach it, I heard a sound behind me. I spun around, rifle ready to fire. But it wasn't a soldier. It was her. A woman, human, or at least she seemed human. Tall, slim, pale-skinned, with strange glowing yellow eyes. Her outfit was different, blending fabric with alien technology. She looked at me with an expression I couldn't read, a mix of pity and amusement. "Marcos Garcia, leader of the EOB," she said in a cold, measured voice. "You think you're saving humanity, but you have no idea what's really happening." "Who the hell are you?" I demanded, keeping the rifle aimed at her chest. "My name is Aline," she replied, stepping closer. "I was captured 2 years ago, just like you. But I've seen the truth. These aliens aren't just here to feed. They're here because our destruction is inevitable, and I chose to survive." "You sold out," I spat, my finger tightening on the trigger. "You betrayed your species." "You think we're the solution, but we're the problem," she said calmly. "The gas that gave you this strength? It was intentional. They're turning humans like you into weapons, because what's coming after them is far worse. And the worst part, Marcos? You're just a pawn in a much larger game." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut, but I couldn't let myself waver. "Pawn or not, I'm taking all of this down," I replied, gesturing toward the core. "If you do, Earth won't stand a chance when the real enemies arrive," she said, her eyes wide. "You have to understand, Marcos. They're just the beginning." "I'd rather take my chances," I snapped. Before she could stop me, I pulled the trigger. The energy core erupted in a blinding flash of light, the heat throwing me against the wall. I heard screams, explosions, the sound of something colossal tearing apart. The ship was collapsing. When I opened my eyes, I was in freefall. The ship, or what was left of it, was breaking apart in the skies over Rio de Janeiro. The heat of re-entry was incinerating everything, and the larger fragments fell like meteors. I managed to grab onto a floating piece of metal, using it as a shield as I plummeted. The crash was brutal. Everything became a blur of fire and debris. When I finally regained consciousness, I was lying amidst the wreckage. The ship was obliterated. I had won, or so I thought. That's when I heard it. A low, ominous hum from the sky. I looked up and saw a fleet, dozens, maybe hundreds, of ships far larger than anything the Viltrumites had. They were different, almost organic, as if they were alive. And that's when I understood what Aline had meant. The real enemies had arrived. The fight wasn't over. It had only just begun.